Hello everyone, and today we're going to be taking this headlight and restoring it to look like new using this 3M headlight restore kit. So let's get started. Now this kit comes with some buffing compound or rubbing compound, the polish pad, some sandpaper. We have various grits. We have 500 grit, 800 grit, and then it goes all the way up to 3000 grit, and of course the drill pad. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and clean this off and see if we can get any dirt or debris off, just to see if this needs sanding. So let's take a look, see how bad this really is. Now just so you know, this headlight was taken from the junkyard and it was very similar to the one that's on this truck. So I try to get the one that's closest to the same make and model as what's on the truck now and the same year. All right, so looking at this still looks pretty rough, still got a lot of cloudiness to it. This definitely needs to be sanded down. So just because I'm bougie, I'm gonna put some gloves on, take our drill, and then our drill adapter. And the first pad we're gonna start off with is 500 grit sandpaper. So go ahead and attach that right onto your drill, like so. And let me get over here real quick. All right, so when we start sanding, you wanna make sure it's completely flat against the headlight. So we're gonna start sanding this with 500 grit sandpaper and try to get most of this cloudiness off. So when you're doing this in your vehicle, make sure you tape this area off. We don't have to since it's on a jig, but if you do this on your vehicle, tape every area off just to make sure you don't scratch any of it with your sanding pad. All right, so just as a FYI. So let's continue on. All right, this pad's getting gunked up. So let's go ahead and swap it out for another 500. There we go. We'll give this one more pass just to get all these little scuffs out of it. Looks like a nice uniform cloud here, so that's a good sign. This looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and wipe it down and take a look at it. So far this looks pretty good. This is exactly what we're looking for. See how it's nice and cloudy though, but the scratches are all uniform? That's what we want. Now we're gonna go to step up our grit to 800 grit just to soften these scratches up just a little bit. Let me go ahead and take this 500 off. Grab some 800. As you can see, it says right there, 800. And we'll put that right on there, nice and flat. And we're gonna do the same thing, start off flat and keep your drill flat the whole time. And we're gonna see about getting these scratches nice and small. And just so you know, this is very light pressure. I'm not pushing down very hard. It's very, very light. Tell you what, since this sandpaper is a little gunked up, we're gonna swap it out. Go for another 800. Now these come with 4 800s and 4 500s, so you can do 2 per headlight. So just because we can, I want to wipe it down one more time just so you can see what I'm looking at. And by the way, it's soapy water, it's nothing special. It's just enough to get this dust away, and that way we can get an assessment of how it looks between each sanding grit. So that looks pretty good. It's starting to look a little translucent, but see how cloudy that is? Don't worry, that's exactly what we want. Now here's what we're gonna do now. Take our 3000 grit, put it on there. Now this one we're not gonna do dry. This one, we're gonna grab our soapy water, and we're gonna wet sand it while the drill is going. So go ahead and soak your headlight, soak your pad, do the same thing. And don't let it go dry. Well, this is already starting to look pretty good. And again, make sure you have tape right here, because if not, this would tear apart your paint. So by having tape here, it'll just go ahead and add a little cushion. All right, so let's see how it looks so far. Let's wipe this down, see how she looks. Oh yeah, this is already looking 5 times better. Now, at any point in time, you still see like cloudy marks in here, which we don't really on this one. Feel free to go ahead and go back and resand it. Grab that sandpaper again. You could start with that 500 grit if it's really deep, or even go 800. But if you see just a few scuff marks, you can start on that 3000 and just kind of work it. Let this dry, see how this looks real quick. That's starting to look pretty good. This is a great sign. It feels real smooth and it's starting to look really good. The fact when the water was on it and it was, you can see transparent, that's a great sign. So now here comes the last part. Let's go ahead and take off our 3000. Now save this because you only get one when doing both headlights. Let's go ahead and put on our buffing pad. Okay. Now for this one, we're just going to go ahead and rip open this tab right here. And this is nothing special. All this is regular buffing compound. All right, we're going to just throw a little dab on here. Oops, a little bit too much of a dab, but it's a good start. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to dab this all over the headlight just to distribute it just a little bit before we fling it everywhere, because if I start this up right now, it's going to fling it all over the truck. All right, so I got a nice even distribution. Now it's a little warm out here, so what I'll do is go ahead and add a little bit more on this pad. There's plenty of compound in here to do both headlights. They put a little too much, which is good. I'd rather have too much than too little. That's looking really good. So let's go ahead and take a clean microfiber cloth. Go ahead and wipe this down. And it should start looking really good. All right, let's go ahead and wash all this compound off. There we go. Man, that actually looks pretty good. And again, if you don't like how this comes out, like you find out it's not enough shine right here, feel free to keep sanding it and do it again. That's not to say you can only have to do this once. So now that we're at a good stopping point, let's take a look at our work so far. And I'm showing you this all angles, that way you can see what I see in the lighting. And this looks really good. Considering the fact this came from the junkyard and it looked pretty rough, this actually came out looking really nice. All right, now that we clean this up, now all we have to do is protect it, because over time, if you don't actually add a protective coating over this, about 3 months it's gonna start yellowing and doing it again. But we wanna protect this for as long as possible. So, we do have this headlight protection kit. This is pretty awesome. It's a UV block. It's really good stuff. I'll show you how it works. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna use the activator. And all this is a cleaning solution. It's kind of like rubbing alcohol. So if you don't have this kit at home, that's fine. You can use rubbing alcohol and you can use ceramic coating if you wanna use that. But I'll use this kit just because it was recommended, and after trying it out for 2 years, it seemed to have really good results. So there's the activator. Get all the oils and grease off of this. It's the whole idea. If you don't, it won't stick properly. Now we're going to take our towel here, fold it till it's very small, just like so. Take our UV block here. Now the sad part is this block, you don't need that much to do 2 headlights. So you're gonna have this for a while. This is the same one that I was using in the front of this truck 2 years ago. And you're gonna add just a little bit at the very tip here. There we go. See how nice and drenched that is? That's what we want. Now here's the trick. Once you start going down this, don't go back on it. So for example, I wanna go just like this. Get a nice thin coat, go down, and I'm just dragging this with me. Do your best not to go over the same spots. If you do, it will smear it. So now we're gonna let this dry for about 1 hour before touching. So just make sure you don't fingerprint it up for a while. And then after that, it should take about 4 to 6 hours to cure. And that's it. So let's go ahead and recap. This is what we started with. And then after 500 grit sanding, and then 800 grit, 3000 grit, and then after we buffed it off, and this is what it finally looked like after the UV block. So after 2 years have passed, this is exactly how the headlight still looks to this day. It still looks pretty good, still looks somewhat like new. Unfortunately, there is a little bit of rock chipping over time. There's nothing I can do about that. And I'll go to the passenger side as well. And the passenger side still looks just as good. Doesn't look too bad at all, still looks shiny, still looks really good. And again, this is the exact same process I just showed you, exact same UV block. Everything's exactly the same. Exact same process, I didn't change a thing. The only difference is this area right here I taped off, and I taped off everything around this headlight. So that way I didn't scratch any of this. And after 2 years of abuse, I think this came out looking pretty good. Well, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Oops, that's close.